Welcome to Glazed Over,
a podcast for business tips, painting tricks, and gabbing with friends.
We're your hosts, Amy Williams
and Christine Steele, and we're so glad you're here.
Hello and welcome to Glazed Over. I am your solo host today, Amy Williams. We don't have the fabulous Miss Christine with us, and we will miss her dearly, but we do have a great episode for you today. We have a big conversation today about displays and marketing in your studio and why this type of marketing is so important. We have on, I believe, the two best version of display people in the industry here. We have Wendy of your Pottery Patch and Nacy Tuel from your Arts Desire. Hey, ladies, how are y'all?
Hello.
We're doing good.
Thank you so much for joining us today for this conversation. I think this is one of the more, I don't want to say fun episodes, but it's definitely one that I've been looking forward to the most because I think it's so important for our industry to be paying attention to displays and how we can market our pieces in the studio. And also it's just another way to be creative, right?
Absolutely.
It's my favorite.
Yeah.
It's my favorite part of the business.
Absolutely. Can you guys tell us a little bit about how long you've been in business and where you're located and all that good stuff? Wendy, we'll start with you.
I am in Valrico, Florida, which is just east of Tampa, about 20 minutes outside of Tampa. I have been in business. I just celebrated 22 years on November 15th. It's a long time, so I'm past the drinking age. So so anyway, just in a little suburb type of part of Tampa, just outside of Tampa, lots of military, lots of transient kind of families and stuff because of the military, and it's just ever growing area.
Do you do anything other than paint your own pottery in your studio?
Just paint your own pottery. I've tried other things. I've dabbled in glass. I've done all those things over the years, kind of as things were trendy. But after COVID, I just went straight back to my roots and just kept it at pottery.
I hear you. Nacy, what about you? Where are you located? How long have you been open?
I am in Southwest Missouri. I am in the middle of nowhere. I'm very, very, very rural. Anybody who has passed by my studio can attest to that. Cell phone service, spotty, that sort of ruralness. I have been in business for 14 years. I have a studio. It's currently on a little hiatus. I thought I was going to face some hand surgery. We've kind of put that off. But in the meantime, I'm also a CCSA supplier, and my silkscreen business has really kept me busy. I do want to note when we talk about the displays, when I was open several years ago, I had a studio that was almost 1,800 square feet, lots of windows. After COVID, I went to less than half. My studio is 600 square feet with one window. So when I talk about stuff, I'm going to, talk about when I had the big and when I had the small, because I think it'll, reach everybody.
Yeah, I definitely want to hear about both of those. When did you start prioritizing displays?
I started prioritizing when Kaiser Bender, I'm trying to think how many years ago that was, did a pre-con about this very topic. And I remember talking to Dina afterwards and said, I could go home right now and felt like I got my money's worth. It was a total game changer for me when I learned the importance of it, the science of it, and I put it to test to see if what they, were sharing with everybody was tried and true, and it is tried and true. So
what about you, Wendy?
I pretty much started my window display as soon as I opened because I feel like that was a big traffic. It grabbed a lot of attention. We were brand new, but also I have a love of decorating. So to me, that was the pottery studio was just an extension. I had 0 samples when we opened. We opened like November 15th. So just before Christmas, we had no samples whatsoever. Everything was white. So my first window was white mugs and green trees for Christmas. And we just kind of went with that. And over the years, obviously, I've built off of that, but it's just kind of like my love for it, an extension of me. This is truly what I enjoy. The part of is the marketing part of that part.
Have you guys noticed a response from customers in any certain way when they see the new changes or, I feel like that's...
Oh yeah. People, that for a long time, I don't have a window display anymore because I got rid of it with COVID because I needed additional seating and I put it in that window seat. So I have other ways in the studio, but people used to, I always try to find things out of the box. One time I had an old bicycle, and I had flowers hanging from it and, and flower pots and things like that around it. And then they want to come in and buy my display. I'm like, no, I sell pottery. They're like, can I buy that bike? I'm like, no, I sell pottery.
What a compliment.
Yeah. So that was just my creative extension is that front window.
So for the people that are kind of starting in their display journey, and, we have talked about, Nacy, you talk about, sometimes you have windows, sometimes you don't. Can y'all talk us through the different types of displays that you have in your store? Because I feel like there's a few different types, right? You've got your speed bumps, you've got your windows, and even by the register, which ones do you guys prioritize?
Wendy, go ahead. You go
Oh,
first.
so like I mentioned before, I don't have a window display anymore. So I kind of have a wall display and I had some shelves. My husband built some shelves and I have a long table there. And that is what I switch out every couple months. So it's usually something seasonal, something trendy, or something catchy, like Crazy Plant Lady. And it's just full of pots. I did like a coffee mug, like after January, one year I did like a all mugs, that kind of stuff. And then I made like a funny sign. And I mean, some people may not find this sign funny, but it said coffee makes you poop. People loved that sign. But it was catchy and people say it. Like, I mean, I grew up and I heard my mom say this 1,000 times. So to me, I try to make it relatable too. So I made like a wall display. And then because I don't have any window space anymore, then I try to display things in a shelf or a little contained area. So I'll go through and just make like a teapot and a plate and a saucer and then maybe something else. And it all just kind of goes. And like on the back parts of my shelves, I will actually hang garland or some like little pom-poms or something that will draw attention. I have dark wood shelves. So if you have samples on it, sometimes they start to blend. So I would just use the extra props to draw attention and make it relatable because people like cute. They like fun. They like whimsy. They like things that reminds me of what their mom did or their sister did or what they had as a kid or anything like that. So
yeah. What about you, Nacy?
When I had the larger studio, I would always do a large window display. So this window section that I have, there's 3 windows connected and they are about 3.5 feet for each window. So that's a large space. I'm like Wendy. I love to decorate. I like things to make it look homey. So when they come into the studio, they kind of visualize that. But when I came back from that convention I was talking about, I was like, I've got to fill the whole window and da-da-da. Well, that became a daunting task after a while. So I'm on a 4-lane highway, rural though, so it's not a real busy highway. So I was doing all this really big and the only people that saw it was pulling into my parking lot. I thought, okay, scale back a little. And so on that big window display, I was making posters on Vistaprint, large ones, and those hung on the left and right. And then I only focused in the middle. So I was catching that highway traffic with simple signs, but then I had the display when you pull up into the parking lot. And actually, we found that when we would watch our security camera, a lot of people it's like a U driveway. They would just like drive in at night and just stop and look and drive on because we had it lit up. So again, when I had the large studio, then I also had a speed bump. And that was one thing that Kaiser Bender really pushed on because you want your customers to walk in, but it makes them pause. And so it can be a round table, square table. I found that round worked better for me because you have the handicap coming in or somebody in a walker or a mom with a stroller. And it seems like those corners just want to grab people. So I went with the round. And then I have tall shelves. They're about 8 foot tall. And I know people, when I have looked at other studios, they like to put their products up high, but more times than not, customers are not going to ask for help to get those down. Christmas trees is a good place to put those like year round or whatever. But I just found that that's kind of a wasted space for product. So I have mini displays along an 8 foot shelf. I may have 2 little ones. It may only have like 3 or 4 pieces, but I've got different levels that makes it eye catching. So I'll have little mini displays up along the top of the shelves. When I cut back in half, less than half, no room for a speed bump. So Kaiser Bender talked about when you walk into your store, your higher ticket items should be on the right. That's kind of, unless you're left-handed, that's kind of the route that you take when you shop in stores. So I had no room for a speed bump, but I had a little shelf on the right when you walked in that had a little display. So it didn't cause them to stop. It wasn't in their way, but it did cause them to pause where they looked to the right, that natural progression of the way to shop. I know some people are like, oh my gosh, my shelves should hold all of my bisque. Well, I took one little section of a shelf out. So it created more of a square. And this is within the whole long line of my bisque. And in that square, I changed the back of that on the wall with either wrapping paper to kind of give it a pop of color, but I'll do a little display in there. And sometimes it's a small display or sometimes it's upcoming classes, but I like something where it just kind of cuts up that long line of pottery. That's all white or with a few samples. There's that that little speed bump, if you want to call it like that, where you're looking at your shelves. It causes you to look and pause.
Mm-hmm. And for every listener that's right now trying to Google speed bump and understand what we're talking about, in case you also weren't at that convention, a speed bump is defined as like a table or something that stops you in your tracks as you walk into the studio to stop your quick walkthrough, right? It stops, it's something to ultimately sell pieces on. But the best speed bumps, I think, kind of tell a story. They're seasonal. You've got a bunch of different items on there, high ticket items, low ticket, just a way to get people to stop and pay attention to a very specific thing you want them to.
I also have a speed bump, and mine is a little bit different. So I have like a shelf unit breaking up 2 rows of tables, and it helped kind of with COVID in the beginning to separate it. So I use the top shelf of this shelf unit, and it's about 4 feet high. So it's almost a little bit at eye level. So, and I change that always with seasonal something. I make it eye catching. And it's also something that you can see from the window too. So even if you're just kind of popped in looking across the window or whatever, you would see the display from there. And I also do the top of all my cabinets as well. So it's kind of nice. And I have that in seasonal areas as well. So I have like a Halloween section, a Christmas section. I kind of have like a Pinterest section, an Easter section, a wedding, Valentine's.
How do y'all decide on your displays?
I follow trends and then I do things seasonally. Just like I used to kind of wait even to like November 1st to do my Christmas, but dang, when Walmart starts putting Christmas out in July, that totally changed it up. So in September, I had Christmas out, just trying to stay ahead of the game and compete with the big box people because that's what it seems like everybody was buying. And I did sell a lot. I think I sold more in October for Christmas than I did for my pumpkins and Halloween.
What I would do is obviously your seasonal items, your holidays. For those of you who do events, if you're going to do, let's say you're going to do a Taylor Swift event, but you have more than one night, maybe you have 2 nights, 3 nights, that would be a really good display. And that could be in the window to advertise upcoming, or that could be at your speed bump, or that could even be a small display at your checkout counter. My window display would be fall, and my speed bump would be Christmas. And that Christmas would be early. It's that drive-by traffic that's going to see the current, but when they walk in, they're going to see the future. But then, Thanksgiving is that forgotten holiday. And it seems like right after Halloween, it's a full-time Christmas. What I would do then is I would switch my window display from fall to Christmas, but then my speed bump would actually be Thanksgiving for those families coming in to paint. Yes, because that speed bump is going to change for me. It's going to change more often than my big window display. Now, the window display, you need to tweak it because you want people to shop from it. But if it starts looking the same after a month, you're going to lose that interest. Now, if you're in a high traffic area, you probably actually need to change that up a little bit sooner than a month, not go a full month, maybe go 3 weeks and start just changing it a little bit. You don't have to do a full redo, but just change it up. The one thing that I would do, because, we all are crazy during this time of year, I would think on my window display for my fall, I found what worked best for me is I would get rolls of contact paper and I would cut them in different width strips and cut little notches where it looked like a birch tree. And so I would have these vertical lines here and there on the windows. And then I would cut out little leaves and just stick them on. And then when it was time to switch over for Christmas, those leaves came off and I would silkscreen snowflakes. So my trees stayed the same, and I could actually carry those trees from fall clear into past Valentine's Day. But you're changing what is in the middle, like what's on your tables and all of that kind of stuff. I do want to say something that Wendy said that jumped out at me. She said the 4 foot high level. That's really key. The eye line is called your byline. So if you have a window, goodness, a lot of people want to put their pottery at the lower part of their window. And I get it, sit it on the windowsill. People are going to pass by that. It's going to totally blend in. You need to raise that display up. And so, what do you do if you have a big window, or even a small window, but something like Wendy, where she has extra seating there? You need to have that window grab the attention of the customer. And honestly, it doesn't have to be pottery related. You could get a chalk marker and make like a leafy border, or you can just do snowflakes. You want something to catch the attention of your shoppers that are walking by. You got to think about displays. They are silently selling your products. So if you don't have a display, who's selling your products?
Right.
Because the studies show that when a customer comes in, now we're in a different business than regular retail, but if you think about your first and second time customers, they don't normally come straight in and talk to you. They're looking around. So your displays have to do the talking. Those are your employees that everybody likes because they're drawn to it, but they're quiet. They're selling your product. You got to make like an attractive proposition to say, buy me. That's where the display comes in.
And Nacy, you mentioned something that jumped out to me. When you were silk screening on your windows, what are you using?
I am using regular pottery mixture.
Really?
Yes. And you can do colors. I've done fall leaves. They'll be a little muted. They're not going to be super bright, but they work. And then the way to clean it off is you can just get like a little razor blade or like something flat, like a plastic squeegee or a credit card. Just scrape it off. And then do your Windex. Never put Windex or water on it because it will just become a mess. Yep.
Yeah. Wendy, have you ever tried anything like that?
I don't do silk screens, but I do use pottery paints for tons of my signs. I have lots of little chalkboards and things like that to draw attention and maybe pricing or a theme or something like that. And I use my pottery paints all the time for it because
never thought of that.
Oh my gosh, I love the look of it because it's like a chalk.
Yeah.
But it just wipes off. It's so easy. We use it for everything.
I was not prepared for y'all to say that.
Oh, yeah. Chalk markers are another wonderful, different widths. Those are wonderful. And when you, like, if you're making a leaf, you can do an outline of a leaf and just like do like little scribble circles and then take your finger and do a rub in there and it'll kind of make it solid. But again, the best way to clean that off is with a cloth, a dry cloth.
It just dries off, right? Yep. Rubs off.
That's so fun. Yeah. Okay. I hope everybody else is as excited about that as I am. Wendy, where are you finding inspiration for your displays?
I do look at a lot of, when I'm shopping just in my own retail, things like that. I have been to like the Atlanta market before, the big market in January, and I see a lot of things and I take pictures and take notes and there might be 2 things I pull out of it, but I always try to find something out of ordinary, unusual. Like for fall, I might find a big branch out of the yard and then hang pottery from it. I've done that before. And they were clay leaves and stuff like that. So just trying to find inspiration in magazines. I look at a lot of home magazines and things like that. So there might be like a home decor decorating something or other. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to pull that out when I get to that season or whatever. And I do keep lots of things on Pinterest. I don't find a lot of display stuff on Pinterest, but I do find like little clusters of something like 3 pieces. And I'm like, oh, that candle looks really nice with that or whatever. That would be a good accent to just throw in there. One thing about when I'm looking at it, if it has to resonate with me. So like if I feel it, like I make a connection with it, whether it reminds me of something I have at home or just something that gives me joy. That's,
and it almost like needs to tell a story too, right? It needs to contextually make sense.
Right.
As a small business owner, saving money is key to running a successful studio. When you join the Contemporary Ceramic Studio Association, you unlock exclusive discounts with industry suppliers, saving you on everything from bisque to glazes and clay tools. These discounts could easily cover the cost of your membership, and then some. Don't miss out on the savings that can help boost your bottom line and keep your shelves stocked with high-quality supplies. Learn more about our membership discounts at www.ccsaonline.com.
Nice. Nacy, what about you? Where do you get your inspiration?
Same thing. Like if you look at retailers, I look at the Atlanta market.
Yeah, it's interesting. All these people are coming to Atlanta, where I live, by the way. No one
I heard that. Yeah.
The last time we were there, Amy, we wanted to call you up. We're like, no, we can't call Amy.
You should have. I take the entire month of January off, so I'm just sitting at home, like,
we're gonna call
watching
you
TV.
Next time.
Please do.
Have you been to the Atlanta market?
I have. It's been quite some time, but it's so amazing.
Yeah, it's
I would love to. I am probably going to try to go this year, just to get some inspiration. It's so nice.
It helps with the trends and stuff. It's nice to see like what things. I mean, obviously you're there selling Christmas in January for Christmas at the end of the year, so it's kind of nice to be able to see what trends and trendy colors. Like colors make a big impact for me.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yep.
Yeah, Nacy, are you doing any Pinterest or anything for your inspiration?
I do Pinterest.
What do y'all type in?
I type in creative displays, or I may say like fall displays.
I do retail. I look a lot of
Yeah.
things up in retail.
And then I'll, maybe Google trends. But here's the other thing, and I'm finding this with my silkscreen business, that gnomes, I know some people are tired of gnomes, but in some parts of the country, it's just not
It's
catching
just
on.
getting there. I know. It's so crazy.
Highland cows. So you can't get on like Chatter and see what a studio trend is, because you may go, that is like the coolest thing, and you do a display and it's a flop. And when I say a flop, you're not selling items off of it because your customers aren't ready for gnomes or
Right.
Highland cows, where in my area, because I'm farmland, Highland cows, we have real Highland cows. If I was open, that would be totally an event to bring a Highland cow in, because people love it that much. But yeah, I will look and see. I get a retailer magazine, so that kind of tells me also what some of the trends are. But it's like Wendy said, it's not just a theme, it's like the colors. I can do a display and not have a single painted sample, and I can do plates, mugs, bowls, but it's the color that I incorporate that will make that whole thing pop. So you don't have to overthink it and think, I've got to have a sample in this display. That's the lovely thing about displays, because you can do a display for an entire year and not have a painted sample, but it's what you put in it. And that may be your thing. Other people may be like, oh, I have the best staff that wants to paint and da, da, da. You can mix it up. You can go one way the whole time, or, mix it up, that sort of thing. The one thing I want to caution people on is when you have color in your display, if it's your samples, make sure those colors work together. You don't want it to be this overload on somebody's brain, because, we have visual learners, audio learners, kinesthetic learners, and there may be people that never even stop at your display because it's too much for them.
Yeah, that would be me.
Yeah. So when I used to teach school, that was the same thing. You have too many things hanging, because some people would like a bright, plain area. Some people need to paint in that cluttered area. So I try to think about that when I have just even setting up the studio, is there's a place that people like to gravitate to.
How far in advance are y'all planning these displays? Are you sitting down in January and knocking out the whole year? Are you doing it quarterly? What does that look like? Wendy, you want to go first?
I kind of do mine by years. So I kind of am already on that schedule. I know from spring till Mother's Day will be one, and then I'll start off with summer. And I do tend to leave my summer display all the way through August, because our kids go back to school in August. So it will be like a May, June, July, August part of it. In that display, I never have the same pieces. If it's a plant display, how many flower pots? I mean, gosh, there's a million different flower pots and things like that you could put in there, planters, this and that, to change it up, and it never be the same display, but the bones are there. Whether it's the palm fronds in the background or the tiki hut across the top, because I've done like a tiki hut flamingo one. So I never changed any of that, but I just changed all the pieces in it. So I'm a fly by the seat of my pants kind of girl. So, and then, sometimes the best ideas come to me at like 2:00 in the morning, and I'm like, I'm going to do that for my display tomorrow. Things like that. But I do kind of have it mapped out in my head. I consistently do the same theme, the same idea, like that wall display that I display so much on there. I probably change it out between 4 and 6 times a year.
I think it's nice to leave some room for flexibility, for those 2 a.m. brilliant ideas.
Right.
Nancy, what about you?
Wendy and I can be two peas in a pod at times. We're the same. I recommend that you just get your planner out and you start looking at the holidays, because right after Christmas, you need to put out Valentine's Day. Yep. Because Valentine's Day is in the middle of the month. If you do it in the middle of January, you don't have that much time. So, you need to think about your holidays. Christmas, you don't have to have full-fledged Christmas out in October. Or Wendy, when did you say you had yours out this year?
Right at the end of October, before Halloween was over here, I had full on Christmas. So,
you don't have to go full-blown super early, but you need to have something. So on those bigger holidays. Teaser. But like if you're doing the penguins, the adopted penguins, that needs to be out a little early. You need to give some time for your customers, because not everybody comes in every other week or whatever. But you need to think about, this person has painted, they come back next week. Is there something that's going to grab their attention to bring them back? So you got to kind of plan some of those. But I'm like Wendy also, that I may have an idea that I'm like, oh my gosh, that is totally what we're going to do. And that's the lovely thing about displays is if you've got spots for multiple and they don't have to be big, like what I was talking about in my shelving area of all the bisque, I can change that out as often as I want. That's the lovely thing about this. There's no wrong way or you have to do it right way. You know, does that make sense? It's not set. If you kind of get the basics, then you can find what works for you. Because there's some people that probably will never, ever want to do a display.
Right.
Right. That's foreign to them. Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, and it's like Wendy's saying, once you get the bones of it and when you get in the practice, it's so much easier, right?
It
to
is.
kind of change.
Yeah.
Well, and here's the thing is you may have a very creative employee that's their thing or a friend, you know, you don't have to do the displays all by yourself. I did because I like to do that. It's my quiet time. You know, I know it sounds weird, but I put on some classical music that's kind of noise, but it's not like high low. And it's just kind of, I get in my thought, I get in the zone, and I'll take a picture of the display because what I see, sometimes the camera catches something else and I'll be like, oh, that's,
I do that with my samples too. Sometimes I'm too close to it and I need to see, I need to see it through the camera.
Yep.
Yeah. I was going to ask about staff members, if they have any input or if they're bringing you any trends and if that's factoring into what y'all do at all.
Oh, the staff, you got to listen to them because especially if they're younger, they're
boots on the ground in a different way.
Yeah.
Yep.
I pull on them for my events, certain movies and things like that, because they're in the, you know, I haven't been in the movie theater in 5 years, so I don't really know what's out there, but they don't really help me with displays. I mean, I don't think they're learning because I can tell when they have to like put out bisque and how they arrange it on the shelf. I'm like high, low, you know, make it like a W or a V, you know, when they're putting things on the shelf and things like that. So I know that they're listening. I don't know that I'd call on them for.
Well, and you've got it down to a science. So you probably don't really always need them.
No, that's the part I enjoy.
Yeah, the event, that's smart to kind of bring them in.
And I'll be honest, I get little put out when people start buying stuff off my display because they messed it up.
I know.
Nancy, do you get that way? Oh my God, just put that there. I left it there. Oh my gosh, now I have to find something else.
Yeah. Are y'all taking pictures and documenting these displays?
Always.
And also, are you putting it on your social media?
I try, yes.
Okay. You should make it such a big deal every time you change the display.
Absolutely. And that's the other part of that silently selling and your silent employee. You have to show off your displays. That's what draws people in. If you can see your displays from the sidewalk, parking lot, or whatever, that's a draw in. When someone walks in your door, if you have room for a speed bump, that's a draw in. But what about the people that's never been to your store? You really need to show your studio. You need to show the big picture. Because some people like me, I kind of want to know what to expect.
Oh, 100%. I need context for everything. I need to know what the parking is.
Yes.
I need to know, I need to be able to visualize your store before I get there.
Absolutely. And so you got to show the big picture, but those little displays, oh my gosh, you don't even have to show the whole display. Just zoom in on a couple pieces. And, you know, if you've got a fairly decent sized display that's like on a 4-foot table, you could probably get 8 really good pictures of just zooming in. Yeah, you got to show it off.
And I think it's fun too to bring your online audience into the conversation. And, you know, let's say it's time to put out Valentine's Day and you're doing like a bumblebee theme or something. Right. You could take 3 things and say, guess what our theme is, you know, and like let them kind of like have a little bit of chatter about it. I think that's always so fun. Just any way to have a conversation with them.
Absolutely.
A kind of logistical question here. You know, a lot of us don't have a ton of windows. Are you lighting these displays in any particular way?
You have to light them up.
How are you doing it? Tell us everything.
There's a lot of times I've put a little lamp in my display.
Love that. Yeah.
You can also on Amazon just do some searches. You can get little lights that will connect to your wall that hang down. I don't even know what they're called, but they'll have a little arm in it. You can get little discs that light up. You can put them on a timer. They have a battery and you put a timer on it, and that could like do some uplighting. When I was at convention this year in my display, I had little discs that were battery operated, has a remote, has a timer, and they were also magnetic. It had like a little L brace that I could screw it onto something, but it also, I just like attached a magnet on the bottom of a shelf, and then the light went to that and it just lit up that little dark area. So you could do that. You could put lights on timers. It doesn't have to be bright. It's just enough that makes them want to see. Now, if you can't do that, then I would have a light on somewhere in your studio. And when I flip on my lights, like 8 come on. when I moved the lamp from the window, I just put the lamp on my checkout counter that just kind of softly lit up the studio. Because again, for those people that if they're not seeing a picture online, but they maybe walk by or drive by, it gives them a chance to look in the windows. No one's there, but they kind of get that idea. But yeah, you got to light up your display.
Yeah. Wendy, what about you?
Well, she's much better than me because I do not light up my displays. Now when I had them in the windows, I did have special things in the windows just to highlight it. Same thing at night. It gave a little ambiance, but I do have some auxiliary lighting or whatever in my studio when the lights are turned off, but I just don't have the space and I don't have I could never find a particular look that I would want. So I just go with the ugly fluorescent, unfortunately, but everything's else on the shelf, but which most of us all have that too. So
I can't believe I've made it. We're 40 minutes into the podcast and I have not mentioned, I want to say it was a pre-con, Nacy, that you did 7 years ago. I will be honest with you. I went to that class, was so excited. I sat in there and I'm overly emotional every day, but I start tearing up because you are so good at what you're doing. You brought insane examples. How many displays did you bring for that class?
Almost 20.
Yeah.
We have a 24-foot box trailer and it was full because when I was asked to do it, my thing is go big or go home.
Yeah. And she went very big.
I went very big. And if you're talking about I can talk about a display. I said to my husband before this recording, I'm like, this is going to be hard for me because it's such a visual thing. I want to like show pictures or,
right.
So it's hard to just talk about it. But I just felt that way that, I wanted to, I brought a hutch. I brought my big arbor. I mean, but I also had like a little 2-foot table that was ample enough to do a display. I wanted to show different themes, but also, I brought a grill and did a 4th of July. I just wanted to show that there's different ways to do it instead of just, gosh, they're fun. Once you
they are fun and very inspiring, so I think hopefully after this episode, people will start looking, like Wendy's saying, at the big box stores. I like to see what Anthropology is doing. They pay incredible artists to do and I like to pay attention to their timing as well, because they have the money and marketing that we don't have. So let's start looking to places like Anthropology and Target and Nordstrom and all of those places. I bring up the class, Nacy, because I am about to ask about storage. And I think I actually know the answer to the answer to this question for you based on that class. But how do y'all store your seasonal displays? What does that look like?
Well, I put everything in totes by season. So if it's something that can put one of those black stackable totes, and I counted my totes the other day.
Oh no, let me guess.
Take a
30?
guess. More than that. I have 37 totes of stuff. And I did very good. For a long time, I didn't label them. And then my husband would have to go through every single one of them to find the Easter that was buried. So I'm very good now and I also write them at my studio. I write them down and how many boxes are Thanksgiving and whatever. So I can go back and count the number of boxes that I needed. But in my studio, there's sometimes you just need a sample plate to pop up. You don't need the whole Thanksgiving display. So I have a higher top table in my party area, and underneath of it, I bought the plastic crates, kind of like the milk crates. And I have them by seasons. And then we just put cardboard pieces in between the plates and things like that or whatever. And then we have one crate just full of mugs. We have one crate full of bowls, things like that. And then we can stack them easily under there. So that when I tell my employees, go pull out, oh my gosh, Valentine's is tomorrow or whatever, you know what I mean? I don't have one of those displays that, one sample out there, then they can go immediately pull those out. We recycle those same samples all the time. So in studio, I do that. And then we mentioned before, I also use the top of my shelves just for those. So that's kind of how that started when I didn't know what to do with them before I was really getting into my display game. And then I use those up there, and then I use the ones in my studio underneath the table.
That's
so the crates work out great. I mean, honestly, you can fit
that's a great idea.
12 plates or more, just depending. And then we stack them double high, one on top of each other.
Where are you getting these crates, by the way?
Just like at Office Depot or something like that. They're just like the old milk crate. I mean, one year I even got them at Walmart during their school supply. There was like a file folder type of thing. And it was one of those kind of milk kind of crates like that. So, but yeah, I do tend to have a lot of display storage. But I do keep some things at the studio. So like for greenery, I have like just a tub of just greenery. And then I have a tub of just cloth material things that I would use like for the bottoms. I have a whole little tub of things of pom-poms and ribbon and banners and, different felt pennants and things like that I would hang like in a backdrop of something so that I can immediately pop that up and, all colored pom-poms, and I can put that behind my checkout desk, and that could take me for spring, summer, birthday party, whatever I want to do with those. Little things I keep in the studio that I can use all the time.
Yeah, smart. Nancy?
I have,
And how many totes do you have?
Uh-huh.
I know,
Let's
I'm a little
hear it.
nervous.
I don't have totes. I have banker boxes.
What's that?
Okay.
Oh,
I did not know the answer to this.
okay. A banker box is, I don't even know the dimensions of it. It's very sturdy and it has a lid that goes off and on. It's big enough to hold file folders. Look it up. Okay.
Okay.
I'm
I know what
Googling
you're
it
talking
as
about.
we
Okay.
speak.
Yes.
Oh, I see.
I have a lot, but I do have like one that says the pennants, banners, one that has the material, one that has more than one that has greenery. I like
Mhm.
garland. I like picks. I like
do
little
too.
Mhm.
potted things. Okay.
Yep.
What I like about that box is we're actually a custom cabinet shop. So I'm in a very, very large building, but I have the front. And so there is a hallway that divides us. Well, when you have cabinets and dust and all that. So I like the banker boxes. Totes, because of where I have to store it, it's a little high. Since my accident, I have to be really careful. A box is more manageable for me. And I can stack them. Oh, they're probably stacked like 6 high. That's why I don't
Wow.
even know how many I have. I have a lot. But I like to label on the end of it. Right now, I have them labeled as numbers, and it will say like TH for Thanksgiving 1, TH 2. And then I have an index card that tells me what's in that because I don't want to go through all those boxes.
Right.
Right.
But I can tell you, since I downsized from that big studio size to now 600 square feet, I don't need a lot of display stuff. And I really had to rethink. And so I have my bisque boxes. And I have my little, extra things. But like Wendy, right now I have a watermelon display up on the top of the shelves. But like with that, I have a picnic basket. I have some large ants. I have like a little topiary tree. And then I have a lemon display. And so I may have like a basket full of lemons. And then I always have Christmas out. I always have every season out along the top.
I
Same
think
as
that's
like
very smart.
Yep. The same as like, this is very random, but my ornaments, Wendy and I store them the same way. I always have ornaments out because you have the people that come in the summer and they're like, oh, we need to come back in the,
Right.
So that's why I have those little displays along the top because they're like, oh, we could come back and do this in the summer.
And how do you store the ornaments? Is it the Hobby Lobby chest that?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep. It's got the little cubbies and then you can, it's got the little thing
So
that you
nice.
can label in.
Yes, I found those. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And so I had my husband put 3 of them on there. First he put 2 and I'm like, oh no, I need a third. So those are like, that was my big find. I love those.
Wendy posted that and I messaged her and I think I might have said, oh my gosh, where did you get that? But back to the storage, honestly, you don't need a lot of stuff. You don't need a lot of stuff where I used to think I had to have all the stuff. And then, next year, like the Christmas stuff is lovely because you can kind of switch that up. But there's some things that I will maybe impulse buy. But do you know what I do then? I put it on my marketplace on Facebook and I sell it.
Oh, yeah, that's smart.
I do like to keep some of those samples out year round in those shelf top displays, but I try not to have more than like a banker box of painted samples. And if it's some that's a little trendy or whatever, I may end up donating that. If someone hits you up, because I know gnomes, I hope gnomes are done. What am I going to do with these gnomes? I'll donate them or, that sort of thing. Or even I sell samples.
Looking for new ways to grow your fine arts studio? Say goodbye to creative blocks and hello to inspiration with CCSA's step-by-step guides. Whether you're planning camps, adults classes, kids classes, or looking for seasonal designs to keep your customers coming back, the CCSA has you covered. With over 900 pages of ideas, templates, and tutorials, our guides give you everything you need to create unique experiences for your customers. From storytime sessions to fresh design ideas, these guides are packed with tools to help take your studio to the next level. Join the Contemporary Ceramic Studios Association and unlock your creative potential today. Visit ccsaonline.com to learn more.
But when you think about your storage, you don't need a lot of pieces for your display. You just need
Yeah.
little accent pieces and that sort of thing. So that's a very good question. Now, if Wendy with the bike, she probably doesn't store that bike at her studio. If she's like me, I steal things from my house.
Yes, me too. Yes.
I steal a lot from my house. And, I may steal a fake plant from my house and take it
Sure.
back, or a live plant, a little table. I'm always back and forth, that sort of thing. So look at things in your home. You'll see it in a totally different light.
My son says, so I got the grill, the little grill that Nancy's talking about, to put in a display for my Father's Day, or a summer display or whatever. So I had it, drug it back out to our garage, and my son comes by and goes, "Oh, Mom, I'm going to take this." And I'm like, "Don't you touch that." He's like, what do you mean? What'd you get it for? And I'm like, "It's a display. Don't I don't want no burnt hot dogs on my grill." He's like, "Mom." I'm like, "Yeah, well, that's mine."
He just wanted to have a cookout. Yeah.
Yes, he's going to use it.
Hey, Amy, can we circle back to the storage thing for a second?
Please. Yeah.
If somebody asks me, what do I absolutely need for display? My go-to are wooden crates, because wooden crates are rectangle and you can prop them vertically, horizontally. You can stack them. You can do a lot of things with crates. You can put crates where your customers can see from the outside, but then as they come around, so like I may have a crate, the open crate facing the parking lot, but the crate stacked on top may be a solid, the back or the bottom, with a plate hanging on that. But when you walk in, then on the inside is the little cubby to put stuff in. Does that make sense without the picture?
So it's storage, but also a part of the display.
Absolutely. And those crates, I use them all the time. So I now have an actual retail place. It's called Robin Lane Boutique, if you want to check it out on Facebook. But I use crates in my displays there for my product. I feel like a crate is a really good, you can use it year round. I painted mine white, actually. I just did like a dry brush white. I feel like the pottery looks better on that. I think when you get to the brown, it tends to look a little fallish, that color, So I just like, not even a solid white. I just like the white on there. You can use those year round. And then if you go to store them, you can, store one inside of the other. And then like 3, you can have it sitting like normal on the ground, and then put one on its side, and then take your third one and flip it over. And then it looks like an enclosed box. That's great for storage, because then you can put stuff inside of that as well. But crates, I feel like you really need material is key, and greenery. Now, when I say greenery, it doesn't have to be like greenery. Like right now, it could be holiday picks, but I like a little bit of greenery, something in a little pot, something as a floral pick, just to tuck those in as a texture, some color interest. So when you think about storing your stuff, you don't have to buy big things. You can do a great display with just material, greenery, crates, maybe line the back of the crates like on the inside with wrapping paper, just sticky tack that up. You can do a lot with very little. The thing about the display is it's the power of an influence. Your influence your customer, and that little investment, that little display is going to generate income.
Yeah, it's worth it.
You know what I use a lot too in almost every display is I use a riser, whether it's like a cake plate or something just 4-legged, small ones, big ones,
acrylic,
whatever.
Yeah.
Yes, acrylic. I use those in every display. So,
and you can get those pretty easily off Amazon. You can find them almost anywhere. I don't have a traditional studio like you two, but I take a lot of photos for, marketing purposes. And so I have a ton of these props that you're talking about, the greenery, the material. I'm shopping a lot at Michael's, especially with discounts and coupons. I'm shopping at the dollar store very, very often. Where are y'all finding some of these picks, some of these fabrics that you're speaking about? Where's your kind of go-to store for when you do need to refresh something?
I like to get the little, what are they called? Fat quarters or
Yes. I was just going to say that. Yes. You can find those at Walmart even.
Absolutely. Super cheap, because those are great to drape over things. Those are great to.
And that's fabric for anyone that doesn't know.
Yeah.
Yes.
So for risers, I like different heights. I feel like different heights is a total must. A lot of my risers are my boxes. That my bits
with maybe some fabric on top.
Yep. And to sturdy it up, sometimes if I have, like my last Christmas display had my pumpkins that I packed back up that didn't sell. It was that box. So it was sturdy. But then I got an 8-inch tile on top and then laid my materials so that that box is not sagging with the weight. It's going to hold, that tile is going to hold the weight of a plate or whatever. And then I just covered it with material. So you do not have to go out and buy stuff. Just get your boxes, just different sizes, and cover them with material. But you can always hit Amazon, buy things in bulk. The acrylic ones work great. I hit Walmart because I'm so rural. That's the only thing
exactly.
I've got to drive an hour to get to Target and all that kind of stuff. So I just get my material from there. And tablecloths work great. Shower curtains work wonderful.
I like placemats a lot.
Yeah, I use placemats a lot.
Yeah. Where are you shopping, Wendy?
I do a lot of Hobby Lobby just for my basics because they have a decent greenery that I can use for just about every display type of thing and things like that. I do Dollar Tree for especially like the little Christmas picks or the cheesy red flowers for spring or whatever. You know, the red flowers may look cheesy by themselves, but if you do a cluster of them, so you have, 12 of them in a vase, all of a sudden those cheesy carnations look very cute. Perfect for 4th of July, things like that. So don't rule out it's not the Dollar Tree anymore. It's the $1.25 tree, but
tell me about
it. But, I still will go there. Same with wrapping paper, anything like that. Sometimes, Nacy, when I want to make a box or whatever, I will just wrap it in craft paper.
Yep.
And just that way
paper.
it's covered. Yeah. And it looks brown. I can tie any kind of ribbon around it. I get the little spools of like plaid ribbon and I'll do like black plaid, red plaid, orange, yellow, whatever. And I throw some plaid in a display and all of a sudden it's very cute on craft paper or hang anything like that. So
sometimes I'll get like 2 yards of fabric also if I don't want to use a tablecloth, so I can kind of scrunch it and maneuver it to, make it look like, sometimes I don't like it totally flat. I like it to be gathered in some areas. When I did the display at convention, it was Christmas themed. And so I got shimmery material, almost silky. And I had a little bit on the table, but I actually put it like inside my crates. And, I just had like little tucks, but I just threw in some ornaments. I just threw them in. Like they weren't hanging, they were just tucked, and I had some greenery done. And it was simple, but
it's that texture, right? That's so important.
Yep.
Wow. Not to put you all on the spot, but if you had to pick one prop that you've collected over the years that shows up maybe the most in your displays, what would that prop be?
Mine is like a 12 by 12 wood riser. I use it in every single display. That's
a good starter pack item, I think.
I can't narrow it down to one.
You can give me as many as you want.
Okay.
With all those banker boxes.
Tiered trays.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I use that too. Right. I had forgot about those.
Smart.
Because you can put a lot of product in a small amount of area because it's going up. If you took pictures at convention of my booth, in the fall display is a tiered, it's not necessarily a tray, but it's tiered, but at the top is a bird because that's not where your eye goes to. Sure. I use that crazy thing all the time. And it's got kind of a wire mesh shelf that when I put heavy things on it, it kind of sags a little bit. So I just put tiles in there and then I put the material on there. I also have one that stores where it's all compact, but then it swings out and I've got 3 levels. So there'll be like a circle level and then it goes higher, but it swings to the right. So it's on a swivel is what I'm trying to say. I like things like that. But
things that kind of have little movement.
Yes. And I like rectangle better than round because sometimes round, the circumference does not allow for like a mug to sit in it. Does that make sense? It's a little too narrow to like, what do I put at that top one? But I like rectangle. But you don't need those things. You can take mugs and take like 4 mugs and put them together like in a circle and then put a mug on top. You can take your plates, have them flat, and then get a plate riser and lift one up. You don't have to have all these props. You can, make your little heights by just using what you have. I can't tell you how many times I take either a plain canister and flip it over, and that's my riser, or a bowl. Or
for me, a bowl. A bowl with the plate on top. Over. Yeah. If anyone is listening at home, and we know they are, and they're feeling excited but a little overwhelmed, could you two, as our design experts here, give us like just that first tip? Like, where would you start if they are genuinely starting from scratch or almost scratch? What would be the piece of advice that you give them to push them to get started on a display?
Start. You got to just start. So here is what I would say, especially because we're talking to CCSA members. Get on Chatter, type in displays. Wendy has amazing displays. There are other studios that have amazing displays. This is what we tend to do. This is what I did when I first became a member. I felt like I had to do all the things, but I'm in rural Missouri and I don't need to do all the things. I just need to speak to my people. And Farmhouse is still in. You've got New York City people that would never do Farmhouse. So don't necessarily look at the theme, but look and see what's some of the pieces that they're using. You know, you don't have to be big and glorious. Just start and find those key pieces. Maybe it's at your checkout counter, but that is, that area is good for like impulse buys and all that. So maybe that's not where you put your display. Try a speed bump if you have room. Yes, I know that seating people is important. You got to have the space. So maybe when it's slower season and you're not filling your studio, that's a great time to try a little speed bump. And it doesn't have to be a round dining room table. It could be a card table covered. You don't have to invest a lot because we're in a visual business. Don't tell me you got to show me on anything.
Exactly.
So, and I'm sure a lot of people are like that. Get on Chatter and just look up displays and just see. Don't necessarily look at what the items are. Look at what's the pieces, your base pieces. I have done, oh my gosh, I don't know how many webinars I've done. I've done conventions several times, but you can get on past webinars and I actually walk you through on how to do it. But you can also ask us. We're happy to help. That's what we're here for.
Very sweet.
Yes, I agree.
Sweet.
I agree with all of that.
Yeah. Anything else to add, Wendy?
No, I think just like Nacy said, just start. Pick out 3 things. I'm an odd person, so never would have 4 things in there unless you had 3 pieces of pottery and 1 extra prop or whatever, something like that. But I'm an odd person, so I tend to move in that direction. You could have 3 pieces, a plate, a bowl, and a mug. You put a Christmas tree beside it, and then all of a sudden it's homey, it's relatable. People are like, oh, whatever. It just softens the mood. It makes it attractive or whatever it is. So finding the one piece, it could be a Christmas pick. It could be Valentine confetti hearts on the table around it.
Yeah.
Things like that sprinkled in the bowls or whatever. So it's just to make it relatable so everything is not so white. Going back to even like what we put in our displays, I don't have any painted pieces in my display. Normally, like even Christmas, I have 1 little reindeer in a glass jar with some snow. And I have 1 painted Christmas tree. Other than that, it's all white. Yeah. Even the vases and the things I have like greenery struck in and stuff, that is just a white vase or whatever, a white pitcher. But I just tend to use the background to make it like relatable.
Yeah, I really like what you're saying about making it relatable. I talk all the time to people in marketing about how you have to show the people what it is you're selling in a way that makes it fit into their life. Like if they can imagine
they have to be able to
having
vision. Yes, exactly. They have to be able to have a vision that they could put this into their house. So even we tried some of that with like the lifestyle photos for the CCSA is trying to make them put it on the kitchen counter with a tiered tray and a spoon beside it and coffee in the mug or whatever, things like that makes it like, oh my gosh, that's so cute. I am totally doing that, that kind of stuff. So hopefully people are also utilizing those photos. Just even if you don't, go back and look at those photos and see how the dynamics of those that we put together and see what there's lots of different resources, but there are tons of display information on chat. So it's definitely a great resource for people to use. So
yeah. Wow. Thank y'all so much. I'm feeling very inspired. I'm feeling very creative. And I'm also understanding that like, it doesn't have to be that expensive, right? It doesn't have to be going out and spending $100 every season on nothing. It's about kind of slowly building out your extra props and pulling stuff from your house and making it easy on yourself. Because if it's not easy, then we won't do it.
Right? Sometimes I'll go after the season and buy the things that are on sale at 75% off. So, and just put away, I got these really cute little stringy things that have bats hanging from them. And I got them at Michael's and I paid 27 cents.
That's insane.
You know what I mean? So I just put them away and I'll just pull those out and I'll stick those in a mug and they'll just drape out of the mug. And will be part of my little shelf display.
Well, ladies, thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks for having us.
We just chatted with Wendy Pettis from the Pottery Patch and Nacy Tuel from Your Art's Desire. I would say the display queens of the CCSA. And I'm looking forward to seeing what everyone is doing with their upcoming displays. So thank everyone for listening and we will see you in the next one. Bye.
Glazed Over is brought to you by the CCSA, the Contemporary Ceramic Studios Association. Thank you to our moderators, Amy Williams and Christine Steele. Intro and outro music by Scott Lester. Executive production by Louise Blazucki. Learn more about the CCSA at ccsaonline.com.